Can you hear me? I think I did it. Did I do it? Let me know if you guys are out there. There's a couple people watching. See if you can hear me okay. Can you guys hear me? Oh, Jesus. Everything's fine until you go and bump it. That's just going to have to work. You guys hear me okay? Once I get that figured out, we'll just have to roll with it. All right, guys. Hello, Gina, Carol, Kim. Let's start off by, I just want to thank you guys for taking the time out of your evening to join me. This is something I'm going to want to continue to do. So the more that I can get comfortable with it, I appreciate your guys' help. So for tonight, I'm not going to be doing any type of individual readings. There's a lot of stuff collectively going on, so I'm kind of interested to see where some of your questions are going to go with that. So without further ado, let's start, see if you guys have any questions. Start letting them fire. Who has questions? Come on, guys. Hello, Jennifer. Well, I guess I can kind of start. With everything going on, there's been a lot of people have asked me things that they can do to deal with everything the best that they can. So there's a lot of people that are currently in quarantine that are kind of feeling like they don't know what to do with themselves. And the first thing that I will recommend is get on some kind of routine. I know back when my life was probably the most chaotic, I had absolutely no any type of routine. And then once I actually started following like an eating schedule and a sleep schedule, my entire body and mind started to balance back out. And ever since then, I've been pretty strict about a schedule. So I think that if anything, you guys could really benefit from just trying to stay on top of a schedule, even though you got a lot more time to occupy. All right, when it comes to restless leg, that's obviously going to be something associated with the root chakra. Amy, I think in your case, a lot of it comes to do with anxiety, things that are maybe kind of crippling you, or things that you're going to feeling like you have to. I don't know how to explain it, but I think in your case, if you can stay more in the moment and try to be more grounded, hematite. I don't know if that's something you already have, but I would totally go for adding that. I don't know, restless leg in general. Is it something that keeps you up at night as well? We'll see if she comes back to that. What will start happening tomorrow with the full moon? Well, you know, last time we had a Friday the 13th, shit hit the fan. So, Kim, I'm not exactly sure what to make of that. I don't know. I'd say pretty much anything can happen. Jennifer, how long do I think the virus is going to last? So either a concept or we could either go, this camera's driving me nuts. The fact that I feel like I'm sliding off of everybody's screen. As far as the virus goes, I think that this first round, and this is just my opinion, I think the first round, things are going to kind of taper off over the next couple months. But this is something that isn't just going to disappear. And so as much as this first round has seemed to catch a lot of people off guard, without making people afraid, this is something that I would recommend being prepared for either a second round, or be mindful of the way that these things tend to mutate. And so once they go around, they come back around as a mutated version and a mutated version. And when it comes to the virus, personally, I really struggled with insight versus fear. Like, is this my ego I'm listening to, or is this actual insight? Because this is something that I'm going through with all of you guys as well. And so, just like any of my friends or in my personal life, I get blocked. And so it's been frustrating with the virus specifically because I haven't known exactly what to tell people when they want those definitive answers. This is something that I get blocked as well. So without being fearful, I think it's just something that we want to stay on top of. But going down the road, I don't think that this is anything that is just going to disappear. It might tend to disappear for a while, but when you least expect it, stuff like this is going to make a return. At least that's how I feel about it. Tammy, what crystals are working most during this time? So a lot of people, it depends. Some people aren't really affected by this on a reality standpoint, but mentally there's a lot of fear, there's a lot of anxiety, there's a lot of worry. And so anytime people have a lot of anxiety, I'm gonna recommend balancing the root chakra. But when it comes to the crystals, go for the black tourmaline, go for the smoky quartz, go for the hematite, go for the red jasper, the brecciated jasper, anything that you think is going to kind of keep you in the moment. So sometimes for me personally, it's usually hematite, but it will also, I get the same benefit from fossils and stuff like that. So each person is a little bit different. Hi, Emily. Hi, Crystal. How are you guys doing? Thanks for joining me. If you guys have any questions, start letting them fire. I'd like to have fun with this. Hi, Christine. What other questions do we have? Let's keep it rolling. Crystals for OCD. All right. Let's see. This is something that it's going to, each person is going to be slightly different. And now, Carol, I feel like with yours, a lot of it is going to be stemming from a lack of confidence. And so the more confident you are, the less you're going to worry about the smaller things, the little details. So I would recommend like citrine. That is a really good one. Yellow jasper, yellow quartz are both ones that you could use. There's a really cool yellow jade that I like, actually for OCD. It's not something that we have at Awakenings that's tumbled, but I'm pretty sure that there is a bracelet. Is it safe to clean the crystals with Clorox? Now, this is kind of going to be an opinion. So, personally, do I think that you are going to damage the physical stone from Clorox? No. However, there's a lot of unnatural ingredients to the Clorox bleach or Clorox wipes themselves. And so typically, if people are going to want to cleanse a stone, they're going to want to use something that is more earth friendly, or something that is from the earth. From a vibrational standpoint, they will kind of work more synergistic almost, like they'll work with each other. If you're looking for essential oils that would be antiviral, antibacterial, antifungal, there's rosemary, there's lavender, I think eucalyptus, there's a few others. Those are ones that I would use if I was going to use an oil to cleanse one of the stones. Besides amethyst, Emily is asking, what are good stones for anxiety? So this is one where it gets really kind of interesting because lepidolite is great. It's a mood stabilizer. It's like 90% lithium. And so anytime somebody is looking to balance out emotions or calm down, lithium is something that I'm going to go for. However, each person is completely different. I look at each person almost as a different species of animals. And I know that that sounds weird, but you can't give the same food to one animal as you would on different species. And so, um, Emily, in this case, I would recommend to people to honestly listen to yourself. Think about the things that you find calming, soothing. And so there's a lot of people that I know, a couple people specifically, that absolutely hate amethyst. Like if they touch it, they claim that their arms burn or that they hurt from it. And so I can't recommend something that isn't going to resonate with your frequency. But when it comes to things that are calming for you, sometimes for me, it's even clear quartz. That can be different from day to day, but totally just go with it. Trust yourself. We're never wrong when we trust and listen to our own instinct. So that's what I would tell you. Robin. All right. So to answer your question, I have 12 tattoos. What would I recommend to awaken psychic abilities? So when it comes to psychic abilities, you have to trust. Let's see, how do I want to word this? You have to know the chakra system and you have to get to know yourself. So for starters, each chakra is tied to a specific psychic ability. And so what I would recommend for you, anybody looking to sharpen their intuition, I'm going to recommend finding a way to find out what your predominant chakra is or what your main psychic ability is. And so I work with a lot of empaths, people who are extremely empathic. It's no shock, it's no secret. Their gift is their empathy, which comes from the heart chakra. And so if their heart was out of whack, before we can really work on strengthening any of those other clairs or psychic abilities, you want to make sure that your predominant ability is in check. That way, it's kind of like working out muscles so that you can go from kind of one ability to the next. And so as a medium, anytime I'm going to connect with spirit, I actually have to trust each of my psychic abilities. Some spirit, they don't want to be heard. They only want to feel. Sometimes I don't feel anything. I only hear. Sometimes I only see. And so to get there, you really want to start with which psychic ability you think is going to be your predominant one or where your strong suit is. Strengthen that and then kind of go from there. It's really kind of a fun process. Do you see anyone coming into your life, Julie? When it comes to this, it's so hard because I try not to answer personal questions just because I could be picking up on so many different things. If you're going to question things, I'm going to question it. Right now, I would recommend taking this time to actually reflect. I've always been one to kind of enjoy the solitude. I enjoy my alone time. It gives me a lot of time to think. However, I've also been having like a love-hate relationship with being single. And so I know also where we just want someone to kind of come along, take the opportunity to really grow, learn as much as you can about yourself, try new things. Being single is honestly one of the best things that has happened to me. And so anytime I see somebody rushing to try to meet someone or start a relationship, I'm like, you might just want to keep floating the boat of yourself and just being yourself, being your most authentic self. Because the more that I seem to embrace my own authentic self, I'm manifesting and attracting more and more people into my life that are like me. However, the dating is a little bit different. So on to the next one. Do I need to sage my crystals before I charge them? So I recommend, Emily, anytime you feel compelled to smudge or sage or cleanse your crystals, go for it. I can never sit and tell you when is right, when is wrong. If it's something that brings you joy, totally go for it. If anything, I would actually think to cleanse them before you bring them back in, but whatever works better for you. It's hard to, there's no right or wrong there, but good question though. This is something that has just happened in the last few months as I started remodeling and purging my house. Carol, what were we talking about? Or is it the OCD? I think so. The more that you have on your mind, um, I don't know, with you in your case, I would tell you to find a way to really look at where your mind is at, what you're trying to control. And so if anybody's getting ready to move, they've got all types of things on their mind. And so um, of course you're going to start obsessing over. I don't think OCD is so misunderstood most of the time. I think if anything, you are wanting to make sure that things are done properly, because you care. You're functioning from passion, and so therefore you want things to be done right, so that they feel good to you. However, I don't know. We could talk more about that one later. Hematite hurts and it gets hot for me. Okay, Lori, question for you. Do you have arthritis? Hematite is something that I have ran into that actually triggers inflammation. And so people that have arthritis, you're not going to want to carry hematite or hold them in a meditative state, because it will start to aggravate or cause more inflammation. The shaman stones are also another stone that you'd want to stay away from. Hematite being a type of metal, even if you don't have arthritis or a different type of inflammation, it could still trigger somehow. I would be curious to know if other stones that have higher content of metal also bother you, or if it's one that you're just actually sensitive to. Amy, when we look at things that keep us up at night, pay attention to where the mind goes. Anytime the mind is not comfortable or at ease, neither will the body. And so if you're fighting something, or you're finding that right when you get relaxed, something's kind of jolting you, jolting the mind, also jolting the body. I don't know. There's a few different things. I've known a few people that have had restless leg. One of which she used a mix of essential oils. Arnica oil was one of them. I believe it works with the muscle somehow, and I'm not an expert on the oils, and so don't quote me on this. I would encourage you to look it up. There's something about arnica oil that improves circulation. And so if you're having issues with the legs, I would try arnica oil just to kind of help soothe the physical body. If the physical body has any type of comfort, then so will the mind. And so it's going to kind of be like a symbiotic relationship. Give that a shot. There was something else that had came to my mind that has kind of spaced me, but if I think of it, I will let you know. Can an empath have other abilities? Absolutely, Lori. And so a lot of your empaths, they are ones who you clearly feel other people's energy, and so that is just your strongest gift. And so there's a lot of people that I meet that are what I call intuitive empath, where their crown chakra, their intuition, they are so strong, but they can also they know how something's going to be, and they can tell how it feels. And so it's kind of like using both of those abilities simultaneously. Now, if you are the intuitive empath or just the empath, that doesn't mean that you're not going to learn to smell spirit, or open your third eye and start to see spirit. If you are wanting to develop those, I would again go back to which of those chakras you find to be your strongest ability, and then it's just like working out. The more that you strengthen that, the more that you work with it, it kind of gets the energy flowing to where you'll kind of start getting like, did I just see this? Did I just hear that? Did I just know that this was going to happen? Like you keep the energy flowing where your gift would be the strongest, and then it's just going to kind of happen. It's really fun to kind of witness, because people that really want to learn to see spirit, and they are naturally the empath. They struggle, struggle, struggle. And then once they balance and really work on their heart chakra, and that energy starts to flow freer and get more kind of up higher, then all of a sudden they're like, whoa, wait a minute. I think I just heard something. Was that my spirit guides? Was that spirit? And so it's totally possible. I think a lot of us, we all have some kind of psychic ability as kind of our secret tool to navigate through life. And so once you recognize what your secret tool is, then of course you can develop the rest of those. When is the best time to use Palo Santo? So for me, actually, I've been using mine like 3 times a day. Right before I got on here, I kind of cleansed the space. When I did my daily reading this morning, I cleansed my crystals ahead of time. There's really no wrong time. And so if I'm going to, say smudge for the new moon, and then I will burn white sage, and then sometimes I will go through with the Palo to follow up afterwards if I don't want to burn incense. Anytime I have been sick or have like colds or flus, I am constantly burning Palo. It's something that it resonates with me. I always loved Palo, and then always loved the white sage, and then once I tried Palo, it was like, whoa, there was something about it that totally resonated with part of my spirit, whether it's past lives or it's just something that's magical. But I don't think that there is going to be a wrong time to use that. Let's see. Is there a specific schedule that I should follow regarding cleansing crystals, or is it the same for all crystals, or does it differ? You know what, Robin? I like ritual. I like habit. I don't want to sit and think, when was the last time I charged my crystals? When was the last time I used these? When was the last time I cleansed? When was the last time I charged? So what we recommend, or what really works well for myself, on the full moon, which is what we have tonight, I take my bracelets, my tumbled stones, anything that I have worn, and I will put them in a cake pan, a couple glass pans, and I will put them outside to cleanse and charge under the moonlight. I do that every full moon. And then what I also tell people is, as you are wearing stones, the vibration can be affected. So let's say you are going through a lot of grieving, or you have been anxious out of your mind because you are quarantined and you have no idea how to deal with yourself because you've never had this much time alone, and you feel like you are absolutely losing your mind. And so in that case, I would recommend re-cleansing and recharging anything that you're using, getting you through tougher times, just so that they can stay kind of, if you consider them or think of them as little batteries, you want to make sure that they've always got the full charge. And so if you're having one of those days where you're like, Lord Jesus, just get me through this fucking day, I don't know what I'm going to do, then chances are it's not a problem if you want to recharge them regularly. So selenite is a really cool thing to charge your crystals on. And so at the store, there is selenite charging plates. There's also like lamps that you can kind of set your stuff around. Selenite vibrates so high that it kind of cleanses and recalibrates the vibrations of other crystals. And so if you're going through a tough time and can't get to, or don't want to wait till that next full moon, get out your selenite. That is totally going to be what I would recommend there. Let's see, magnesium. Emily is recommending magnesium for restless leg syndrome. So let's see, Amy, if that's something you haven't tried, totally recommend that. You two keep in touch there, or feel free to use me as a middleman. I'd love to hear how the magnesium actually helps, because there are crystals that have a much larger magnesium content. And so the way my mind works, I'm like, okay, if magnesium is something that works, what crystals have a high magnesium content? So thank you for sharing that. I had a weird thought pop into my mind more than once about being a medical type of medium, if that is a thing. I just don't know if I am far enough along in my journey. So what I will tell you, Christine, you can never let someone on the outside tell you who you are. And so being gay, I was raised a certain way. I was told who I was going to be, how I was going to be, how I was going to act, how I was going to dress, how I was going to look. And so I do not identify as a medical medium. However, I identify as a psychic medium. And so a medical medium is somebody who is going to be very psychic as well, but their gift comes in line with, oh, you have restless leg? Boom. What does she need? Ha, magnesium. This is kind of how the medical mediums work. Um, there's a lot of times that I have actually unknowingly tapped into medical cases and have been able to help people, or have somehow kind of knew what someone's diagnosis was. Um, but when it comes to being a medical medium, I would tell you to master your clairsentience, master how things feel to you, because if you can master how other people's energy feels, you can sit down next to someone, and if you feel your heart flutter, chances are it's because my heart just fluttered. Or if you sit down and you feel like this head pressure, you'll be able to identify what it is. And so I now understand what a heart attack from somebody who has either passed away or somebody who has had a heart attack. When I've been in a reading and I feel this pain, it takes me back for a second, and it's like, whoa, wait a minute, what is that? And then after the first time that I connected the dots, every single time since then that I have felt that, it's been like my sign. And so if you are wanting to develop more as a medical medium, communicate with people, first of all. Pay attention to how you feel along with how people also feel. You'll want to tap into their emotion, but so much more importantly, the physical body. If I sat next to you and my guts are binding up, and all of a sudden you're like, I kind of feel funny, but I didn't eat anything weird. Like, is this dude lactose intolerant? Like, what did he eat? Oh, lasagna, no big deal. Like, I don't know. I think it's something that is really cool. And so anybody who is inclined to want to learn more about the empathy, pay attention to how it feels. I think the medical mediums are going to play a huge role. I have a good friend of mine who has also kind of come into that light. And so what this person is doing is they are doing everything they can to educate themselves on vitamins, nutrition, how to fuel the body, how to fuel the body for, how to basically fuel your immune system, how to give your body what it needs to endure what you're going to go through. Each person and each body is so different, but I'm going to keep rolling here because I could just keep chatting at that point. So let's see. What are my thoughts on adrenochrome? So let's see. I could give you my opinion. I could also give you my insight. I think that it is real. It is something that is being used. The way that it is sourced, I think, is absolutely terrifying. It is a nightmare, and it is a huge problem that we have as a society, that there are people that are using this as a drug, and supposedly it is one of the, for people that don't understand what it is, it's a chemical that is produced from the adrenaline or the adrenal glands, but it's usually, I don't even like talking about it. It comes from torture. And so people are tortured, and then they are somehow able to extract this chemical, and then other people take it, and it's extremely satanic. And there's a lot of people that use it. And unfortunately, when you look at the big picture, the elite, the things that go on at a global level that are very hush hush, things that isn't supposed to be talked about, it is very much out there. And so my hope is that I keep getting hits that in the next few months, a lot of this is going to be exposed. A lot of people, I think, right now are actually being taken down. It's just one of those things that I think if people really knew the truth, there would be even more panic. And so anytime that there's what's going on now, it makes you wonder, like, what's really kind of going on behind the scenes. But that is a really good question and an extremely controversial topic. If you look at some of the other things, it is not good. But I do think that it is out there and it is something that is very real, and it is a problem that hopefully is getting taken care of. I noticed the plants. Do you think plants will have an ability to clear out spaces? I have a lot of plants and know that they are great for air quality, but what about actual cleaning of energy? All right, Robin, because we're in quarantine, have had the time to water and count. I currently have 48 houseplants. I love them. It's something that brings me joy. Obviously, there are properties to cleansing the air, but energetically clearing, keeping good energy, good feng shui in a space, you betcha. One of the ways that you can charge a crystal is actually take a crystal and put it at the base of a house plant. Their plant's auric field kind of goes like this. And so if you have something at the base of a plant or kind of like tucked down into the soil, you will actually cleanse and charge that plant. And so when I come home and it just feels great, I know that a lot of it's not just because of, let me take it back. Who loves going to the Omaha Zoo, the jungle? Regardless how you feel about the animals, stepping into that jungle and it's like this tropical paradise, you just feel good. I think it's definitely something that helps set the tone of a space, and energetically it's living. They are higher vibrational things. And so there's no way that a plant isn't going to feel better in an environment than a plastic doll or something. I can't even think of something else right now. Let's see. Yeah, that's a lot of houseplants, huh? But I totally love them. You're fine, Jennifer. Sometimes when I'm around someone or in the area, I will get lightheaded or I feel dizzy. And so if you are very much the empath, which I feel like you probably are, Jennifer, what I'm going to recommend is, I guess for me, you got to learn your symbols, you got to learn your signs. And so I know when somebody makes me feel lightheaded, it's high blood pressure. If somebody makes you feel slightly dizzy, it could actually be low blood sugar. And so anybody who is an empath working in medical, whether you be a nurse or a doctor or somewhere, when you walk into a room and you get that lightheaded, see how your patient feels. Because if you walk in, you get lightheaded, and you find out that their blood pressure just spiked, it's one of those things you're like, huh, mark that as kind of your sign. And then once you know what your sign is, boom, next time Spirit's going to show you, hey, boom, here's the lightheaded, here's the dizziness. It's fascinating, but anytime somebody is going to communicate with Spirit, it takes energy. And so it takes less energy once Spirit knows what you are going to look for or what you're going to pay attention to or notice. And so just like mediumship, or just like, learning psychic abilities, once I've learned what my symbols, my signs, when I see something, I now know what it means. If I hear something, I know what it means. I don't mess with the system. So pay attention. Jennifer, there's probably going to be similarities. And as you learn how things feel, you'll be kind of like, interesting, I didn't know I could do that. You're incredibly sensitive. And so it's one of those things that I get excited when I see people learn this, because it's not just being too sensitive or just not taking care of yourself. You are literally feeling other people's frequencies. What is my favorite plant? Okay, so I love succulents, but I also love tropicals. Right now, I would say I've got a love for orchids. I have a handful of them, and getting them to rebloom is something that only happens like once a year. But when they do, it's incredibly rewarding. So anybody who doesn't have houseplants, you need to get a plant. Um, a lot of empaths are out there killing plants with kindness, giving them too much love. So that's probably the the problem for most of you guys. Um, let's see. Can it be they could be taking your energy? Um, I guess, Lori, are you referring to if you feel drained? Um, you have to elaborate on that question a little bit, and I'll come back to you. Suggestions for working with a difficult coworker. All right, Amy, do you have your own office, cubicle, or like your own workspace? Because the tips could be slightly different for either. However, typically, black tourmaline is awesome for negative people in general. If you have a cubicle, this is something that you can put kind of at the entrance of your cubicle, and then you will notice that people that kind of pop in to drive you nuts quit popping in. When it comes to dealing with negative people in general, my personal favorite is bronzite. It's a brown, kind of like a gold flecked stone. It repels negativity, but it doesn't just repel it, it kind of like mirrors and deflects. And so if anybody is sending you this negativity, it kind of transmutes it and sends it back. And so I've seen it work personally, and it's kind of fascinating. So give that a shot if you think that's something that'll help you out. I have a pendulum, and I can ask you the question, and if I think yes, and it says yes, and the same question, if I think it no shows no. What do you think about this? Well, for one, I feel like I can't even read because I just stuttered all over that. If you're asking a question and you're anticipating hearing yes, this is where I would encourage you to get a chart. Awakenings has had them where you can hold the pendulum over a piece of paper, or some of them are fabric. You can even find them online. If you want to take a piece of paper and actually write it, draw a line and put yes on one end, no on another, you will kind of notice it pull one way or another, or you could try to go, there's one that has actually the letters, I don't know how to describe it, but they're kind of like in an arch. And so you can ask it questions. And then if you see it kind of move towards one of the letters, that's something that will kind of help. Pendulums can get really tricky, especially if you are asking a question and then you're very adamant that you're going to get the answer that you want, because most of the time, even if spirit's trying to move it one way, your mind is like, no, you're going to go the way that I want to see it. So I don't know. I would see if you can try writing out things on paper, or see if you can Google or hit Awakening's website, see if there are the charts or the graphs that you can use to get your answers a different way. I think that might help you in taking out some of the confusion there. No wonder my plants don't live long. Too much love. When it comes to houseplants, so much of my comprehension and knowledge of plants came from working with them. And the best tip that I can give you for working with plants, roots need oxygen. And so when you water a plant, those roots are not going to grow until the soil goes completely dry. Okay, so if you continuously water the plant to keep the soil moist, they never dry out, they never grow, and they don't get the actual oxygen. And so let your roots go dry so that they go on a mission to go develop stronger roots looking for water. I don't water any of my plants until they actually start to wilt. That's just kind of a technique that clearly works for me. But let's see. I have worked really hard on being spiritually fit. I'm finding it as an empath who's still working in the public that my emotions are a complete shit show. How would you work on this? Grounding, grounding, grounding. Um, Two things. You're going to want to, first off, keep your root chakra in check. And so anytime the root is out of alignment, you're getting kind of thrown off one way or another. And then when that is off, the heart is going to be off. And so what I want for you is to get yourself very grounded in the moment, and then you keep your heart in check so that you are able to take a look at what's going on, not register necessarily how it feels, but basically keeping your heart chakra and your root chakra in check will allow you to look at things more at face value and not have to get so hard to get so caught up in how things feel. If you notice that you're getting caught up in how things feel, you're not grounded. So you want to go back down, balance the root. There's crystals for that. There's foods for that. My son works as a trauma nurse and has been sick. On top of that, PTSD, depression, anxiety from being at the scene of an accident. This is one that's really tough because he's going to, there's a lot of grief and there's a lot of trauma. And so anytime somebody is dealing with trauma, PTSD specifically, they're not grounded. And I know I'm going to sound like a broken record talking about that. So you want to help get them grounded. Red and black crystals are going to be your friends. In this one specifically, black onyx. Black onyx is wonderful for grief, but it's also great for keeping you kind of grounded in the moment. I would also recommend mahogany obsidian. That is a really good one for keeping you grounded, along with kind of coming into your power. And so the anxiety, it's the little things. Not being grounded is going to trigger the anxiety, is going to trigger the depression, is going to trigger more of the PTSD. And so it's extremely traumatic to go through something like that. However, he's going to have to process this. And so you're going to want to stay grounded. Yes, that's going to bring up the visual trauma. However, once it kind of does its thing, it won't come back as often. PTSD is something that's really difficult for a lot of people to deal with. I give you my love there. When it comes to crystals for his heart, I think it's pronounced chrysoprase green, and rose quartz with that black onyx. That's what I recommend for you, dear. Jennifer, when working with a pendulum, do you have to ask which way is yes and which way is no between the questions? No. Once you basically program your pendulum, it's done. You're working with your spirit guides, and so if you're holding your pendulum and you're wanting a sign for yes, and it goes this way, or it's kind of moving clockwise, that is always going to be your sign for yes. Sometimes you might want to restate that intention. Okay, I'm going to work with my pendulum. I'm pulling it out. Clockwise is yes, counterclockwise, just so that there is no room for error, room for guess. The more direct you can be with your spirit guides, the easier they are to communicate with. And so don't feel like you have to make it complicated by asking more and more questions than you really need. What is the best way to stay positive when living with negative people? Let's see. I got to look back what worked for me a few years ago. Let's see. You're going to want to, for one, citrine. You're going to want to go for the solar plexus. That's your confidence. And so anytime something is nagging at your solar plexus, it is just kind of like, you want to keep that balance so that you feel better with that. Let's see, when it comes to dealing with that, you're going to want to keep your vibes as absolutely high as possible. In your case, Crystal, you might also be empathizing. And so if somebody is frumpy and you're having a wonderful day, you need to be able to learn to say, okay, you know what? You're being negative. This is you. This is me. I'm having a good day. I have no reason to be upset. Um, it's so much easier said than done because even I can be guilty of being great, and then something will kind of throw me off, and then I'll have to kind of put myself in check. Like, now wait a minute, hold on here. So um, when it comes to staying positive, little things to keep your vibes high. So what I do, take care of yourself. Light a candle if you like candles. Keep it clean, keep it tidy, eat well. If you, I mean, there's things that I think that people are running into with the quarantine of they're spending more time around people, or they're spending all this time at work while their spouse is at home, and everybody's energy is just kind of all over. So the best thing that you can really do, Crystal, is learn to not empathize and just really look at it and be like, okay, I'm in my bubble. You're going through what you're going through, but you're going to go through that over there, and I'm going to stay happy and healthy over here. So I hope that helps you out. All right, Robin, do you have any suggestions for stones to use during chemotherapy? Amethyst is my favorite. Should I just stick with that, or are there regulars? So I would definitely tell you keep doing the amethyst if you feel that that is something that is working. It's probably helping both with anxiety and keeping you calm. One I would recommend is the smoky quartz. So smoky quartz is wonderful because it kind of it works with the root chakra, but it really has an energy that draws, kind of pulls. And so chemotherapy can be very toxic to the human body. And so, if you think about everything that's going into the body, you want to turn around and detox as much as possible. And so, smoky quartz is really known to be detoxifying specifically for people going through cancer. And so, if you want to have something with you for your actual treatments, you can. I would keep the amethyst for sure, but something at home, something by the bed, something close to you, the smoky quartz. And then do you have any crocodile jasper, Kambaba jasper? That is another one that is all about vitamins, nutrients. And so I want your body to be armed and ready to go. Like, whoop, this comes in, but here we are. We are fueled to turn around and kick this cancer's ass. I think you're doing the right thing. You got the right couple crystals. Smoky quartz would be the only thing that I would tell you to add at home, and then consider the crocodile jasper to keep your immune system up, to also help your body absorb the vitamins and minerals there. Charles, 2 questions. What is your favorite cleansing bath recipe? And 2, what is your favorite way to protect your space from visitors, both spirit and human? So what I do with my bath, I use rose quartz. I have big chunks of rough rose quartz where I've always got them pretty much setting out. There's a few times I will throw some other tumbled stones in with. Rose quartz is wonderful just for kind of calming, warming, but it's also incredible for the skin. And so a lot of people don't realize that. And so I like to get my water all charged up. I also like to add essential oils, anything between lavender, my 2 favorites together, sandalwood and neroli. That to me just makes me feel like an Egyptian. I know that probably sounds weird, but they're both oils that have been used for centuries. And but between the oils and the crystals, I love how today's society is getting back to everything from the past. And so it's really cool to almost tap into some of your own shamanic roots by getting back to your relationship with the earth. Let's see, what was the other question? Favorite way to protect my space from visitors. So let's start spiritually speaking first. One thing I do as a medium, when I moved, I was very, I had a hard time getting used to a new space. Not to mention, I was up on the 3rd floor. I went from living in a basement to being up on a 3rd floor, and I was waking up literally hearing voices, completely tapped in, and I realized I wasn't at all grounded. And so I started putting black tourmaline under my mattress. And that has kind of helped keep me tapped out during sleep. When I went on vacation, I remember being in Sedona, and my first night there, I didn't have anything with me. And the next morning I woke up and I was like, oh my gosh, Kelly, I feel like I did readings all night in my sleep. Like I honestly felt like spirits were communicating with me, like I had this light bulb on. It was wild. So one thing I also do for home, I use black obsidian. When I've had some kind of weird spiritual stuff going on, I kind of amp up the protection, and I put black obsidian in each one of my windowsills. And I also put the black tourmaline on each side of my apartment door. Um, that helps kind of create the barrier for both spiritual and physical energy coming through there, kind of that barrier. There was something else I was thinking to do. Oh, candles. And so a lot of times I will buy plain candles and then I will add crystals to them. And keep in mind, if you light a candle and you're watching kind of this energy go out into the atmosphere, any crystal that you're putting into the candle is going to project and kind of put out those vibrations as well. And so when it comes to protection, if you were looking for a spiritual bath for protection, as weird as it sounds, vinegar, black coffee, and lemon juice. It's incredibly good for the skin. It doesn't smell the best, but it's kind of unique. That's something that if you're having spiritual problems and you need to really kind of protect your energy, that's something that I had been told to do. And when I realized that it worked, I started doing that myself as well. So I hope that helps you out there, Charles. What about pink salt for baths? Keeping positive. You know what? You totally state the obvious there that I completely missed. I put pink salt and Epsom salts in pretty much every one of my baths. It's kind of a standard staple for me. Himalayan salt is extremely great for not only is it detoxing for the body, but it helps cut off any kind of cords. And so when I was in Sedona, waking up, having all of these people talking to me, I felt like I needed a salt bath. Anytime I'm going to do readings all day, I come home and I want to, I'll hop in a salt bath just to kind of cut cords, disconnect anything that I have been connected to or energetically looking to disconnect from. So you guys got good questions there. Keeping them going. Let's keep them coming. I know Charles has more. Yes. So with Awakenings, they are currently closed with everything that is going on. However, Eric and Kelly, the owners, have been there working behind the scenes day in, day out, putting on everybody's online orders. Are getting all kinds of new merchandise. And so it's really kind of cool to see that they're able to keep everything floating. And if there's anything that you guys are needing, reach out. Everybody's here to help everyone. What other questions we have? Sarah, can a loved one talk to me through my pendulum? Actually, yes. And so a lot of times people will use their pendulum to communicate with their spirit guide. But what you'll want to, you'll really want to set the intention for who you want to connect with. It's no different than kind of Ouija board, where a lot of people don't like those for a lot of reasons. It's because there's no intention being set. And so they sit down to communicate with anything that comes through, which you're going to get a lot of negative spirits that way. I don't run into the negative spirits with the pendulums to speak of. However, you just want to be very precise or specific with your intention of what you're wanting to use a pendulum for. Should I also have my sun ground down? Um, Absolutely. So, things are grounding, things that everybody grounds down differently. If you want to get scientific, putting your feet on the earth is something that actually does help ground you. Anything from the earth, I find physically grounding. So, whether you want to look at crystals, plants, house plants, garden, fresh fruit, vegetables, all of those kind of things are grounding. And so, whether you are just wanting to put your feet to the earth, bring the earth to your sun. Anything from the earth is going to have grounding properties. If your son is struggling to communicate with the emotion because of what he had went through, um, sweet potatoes, turnips, beets, peanuts, anything that actually grows down into the ground is going to have a much more grounding energy to it. So um, if you can't get him to hop on board with the grounding crystals or meditating or doing some of the spiritual things that work for you, go for the foods. Let the foods work for you. Charles, how do you feel about the notion of seeing different animals, birds, foxes, as a sign from spirit? So, you know, spirit, there are loved ones that I have that send specific signs to me. I also have spirit guides that are animals, or animal guides. Each person typically is going to have three spirit animals, usually a bird, a bug, and a mammal. And the reason for that is if you don't always see your bird, you'll be seeing your mammal. Or if you don't see your mammal, you'll be seeing your bug. Seasons change. And so it's really great to, they can send you different things at different times. I think you'll know what to look for. But when it comes from, I lost my cousin in a motorcycle accident. And ever since he passed, dragonflies, I see them in all forms. To me, it does not matter if it's a tattoo, a bumper sticker, somebody's t-shirt, or a dragonfly in itself landing, close to me. It's the symbolism. And so I know anytime I see a dragonfly or have this experience, I'm like, whoa, I know that Cody sent it to me. My grandmother was married. My grandfather passed and then remarried. And after my grandmother's husband passed away, I started noticing cardinals in sets of three. Not to, I mean, to no surprise, one female, two males. And the first time, excuse me, the first time that I witnessed this, I was like, literally, I was having memories, reminiscing, thinking of the days with my grandma. And then I see these three birds, and I'm like, no way. And then it's happened a few times since then. And so I know that my sign from them is when I see the three of them together. But I also have cardinals come to me in individuals, for other people, for other meetings. So when it comes to the animals, you really have to talk to them. I have an owl that literally shows up freaky times. There's been a handful of it's not just a coincidence when you're going through something in your life, and then all of a sudden you see this owl. So pay attention. You'll see your spirit animals regularly, and then you'll see kind of animals that kind of come and go, marking different things that you have going on through your life. So I hope that helped you out there. Am I still doing readings while social distancing? Jennifer, yes, I am. I have it set up on my website where you guys are still able to book your appointments through FaceTime, Skype, and then simply over the phone, depending on what you guys are looking for. As far as doing readings, it makes no difference to me. Since I don't have a normal schedule, my availability for readings is much more flexible than what you will see on my website. So if you go, you check it out, I just have morning appointments listed. If you don't see a time that works, please message me. I will either move something, set something up for you. But I took a couple weeks kind of off, and then this week it's everything's back to normal for me. I'm feeling great, and it's just been an interesting thing to kind of go through. This whole quarantine and social distancing, and as everybody's going through this, we're totally in this together. Moldavite, can you tell me more about it? I've been drawn to it. So, Moldavite is actually formed in the Czech Republic when a meteor hits the Earth. It is actually transformed. And so, whatever would have been existing on the Earth, meteor comes in, hits it. The energy was so intense from impact that it actually transformed what was there into these pieces of, um, they're almost like green glass. Moldavite is extremely high in vibration. It's known as the transformation stone. So, if you're going through a big transformation in your personal life or professional life, chances are that this is a stone that you're going to be drawn to. And when people are drawn to it, they're usually ready to make the magic happen. Um, let's see. Do you need to close out a pendulum? Um, I guess I wouldn't say you have to close it out, but I always recommend thanking spirit. So it would kind of be the same thing. Thank you for giving me the answers. Thank you for working with me. Appreciate what you're doing. You don't have to have necessarily a process to disconnect or unplug. But I always, always, always want you to express your gratitude. Do you use tarot cards, and do you have your favorite layouts? So for myself, if I'm going to do readings, there are a few decks that I use. My personal favorite is the Tattoo Tarot. This is one that I was actually like blown away with. I like it because the book has very thorough definitions of what the cards represent. And so, just like I talked about a little bit earlier, when it comes to being psychic for yourself, it's not there. And so I can use my crystals as if I was reading for someone else. However, I'm always going to see what I want to see. When I use a book, there's no way that I can argue what the artist wanted those cards to mean. And so I personally like to use the Celtic or Celtic cross, however you want to pronounce it. I really like how it shows you kind of where the mind is at, what you're going through, kind of what holds you back, and then where you're going. And if you don't like where you're going, that's going to be your opportunity to kind of look at where you're at, maybe change what you're thinking about, and then kind of go from there. Recommendations for dealing with all of these energy shifts. Grounding, grounding, grounding. The black tourmaline, the smoky quartz, the hematite, anything that is actually grounding for you. I think what a lot of people, you want to eat well. I know that sounds generic, but stay completely hydrated. I noticed starting yesterday, it was like, man, I shouldn't be this thirsty. But then I started realizing after talking to a few people, that this energy has been so intense. And as the full moon kind of pulls water, we need to take more water in. So, especially right now, drink extra fluids, eat better, stay absolutely grounded. Couple more here, and then we'll wrap things up. Do you think the plant from his dad's service is giving off bad vibes? He loves sweet potatoes. You know what, Carol? It depends how that plant makes him feel. So I have plants. I've had some plants literally for 14 years now, and some of them, if I've had a bad memory attached to it, I let it go, or I put it outside and accidentally forget to bring it back in when it gets frost and fall, because you want things to be positive, and so you got to know your triggers. And so if your son could be triggered by the trauma from that plant, then it might be something you want to remove. With the virus, I've been finding myself having a hard time going to the store, and by the time I get in the car, I am literally feeling that I am shocked and crying. You know what, Lori? That's okay. Once the pandemic actually started, I remember going to Target, and I felt completely fine. I walked in, I looked this way, there was plenty of produce. No reason to worry. then I start hitting the normal aisles, and I felt so much residual fear, s emotion, like, people like, I kind of teared up, like, "Why am I thinking? Like, why am I feeling like this? Like, what the heck?" And I'm looking around like, "There's plenty of food. I'm finding what I'm wanting, like, what's going on?" And so there's so much fear out there. It's just like going into a funeral home for me or an actual haunted house. Energy is residual. And so as you're going to these places where there have been a lot of people running around with their heads cut off, projecting a lot of fear, running around terrified, you pick up on a lot of that. And so even if you think that you are emotionally fine dealing with things yourself, um, you might be great, you might be great, you might be great, and then boom, you're putting yourself in this position. You know what, Laurie? I'll tell you, do not be hard on yourself. Um, the human mind, our brains, our experience is used to teaching us survival mode. We're used to, um, you know what, you need a job? Here's how do you find one. What we're not used to is a virus, a pandemic, something that is causing so much fear. And so I tell people, cut yourself some slack. We're all going through something together, and we don't really know what this is like. And so, on those days that you're feeling emotional, let it out. Just don't stay there. It's completely normal. I think a lot of people are running into feeling the same way. If you're having a hard time actually going into the stores, you're going to just have to get yourself actually as grounded as possible. Everything is temporary. Keep focused. Mission mode. Go in. You know, eyes on the prize. Stay on the keep the mind on target and be in and out. Alrighty, guys. I'm going to wrap things up here. Thank you so much for joining me. There's a lot of stuff that I'm also been working on kind of behind the scenes. What I've been working on in my downtime, I've heard a lot of requests, and so I am making a couple smudge sprays. One actually has sage in it that you can use as a sage spray. It's very elevating. There's also one that is very grounding. And so they're going to be crystal infused. I'm going to have tourmaline in one, clear quartz, amethyst, peridot. I'm really kind of excited to take things that inspire me and then create. I've always been very creative. And so that's also something. I've got a few other things up my sleeve that I'm working on for you guys. And then I'm writing. I'm doing a lot of putting stuff together to teach you what I know about crystals. And so if there's anything that you want to learn, send it out. I'm working on what's probably going to be like a 2 or 3 day workshop, all things crystals. How things started, how to use on your home, how to use on yourself, how to use with the mind, body, soul. So this is something that I'm looking at as I'm very fortunate right now to be able to have the time to get to do this, and I'm extremely thankful that you guys are supporting me right now and spent the last hour with me. So thank you so much. If you guys have any questions, I'm still responding to all of my messages on Facebook. Feel free to reach out. If you have any questions, feel free. Until next time, thank you guys so much. See you soon. Bye. Now we got to figure out how to turn it off.